Midnight, 16th of December 1994. Shiji Lapite is walking home. He is stopped by 2 police officers. 30 minutes later, he is dead.
I never ever thought I could find myself in such a situation. You know, at that time I didn't know what to think because I just had my baby as well. It was only 6 weeks old. I couldn't really digest the thought of him dying, you know.
A minute silence, please.
Oh, yeah. So, somebody in the police force killed him. And if you can wake him up and go home. If you can wake him up, you got to really create him. Yeah. That's why you killed my husband. Kill me. Kill me and bury me with him. They beat him to death. They beat him to death. They killed him. Why should they kill? Why? 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 Why?
I think as we're standing here today reflecting on his memory, we should spare a little thought as well on wondering on how many other occasions has black people gathered on a few square feet of paving stone to try and come to terms with the way that one of us has actually lost our lives. Stoke Newington Police Station has a horrendous history. And Shiji Lapite is an addition to that terrible list.
In January 1983, 17-year-old Colin Roach was shot in Stoke Newington Police Station. The shock of his death led local people to set up a community centre in his memory.
The first case it took up in earnest was in January 1989, and it was running about 2 cases a week that were reported to the organisation of violence by Stoke Newington or Hackney police officers. That's covering 2 divisions of the Metropolitan Police. We're talking about commonly a low level of violence, which is a punch in the face or arm twisted up behind the back, one kick or something like that, where a police officer may forget himself at best, or at worst has actually deliberately assaulted a member of the public.
Pamela Sims, whose mother, Sita Sims, was killed in the old Stoke Newington police station in May 1971, will now lay wreath in memory of all the people who have suffered and died in police custody over the years. further minute silence.
Brian Douglas was born in Balham, South London, on the 29th of October 1961. He was one of 6 children.
Growing up with Brian was fun. He was always the more gentle of all of us, compared to Peter, who was younger. Brian usually took on the role as the youngest one. He was a premature baby, and we all said that my mum had him as her favourite.
My dad had me when he was 50, so that we used to work a lot hard, you know. We used to work hard, believe you me. Before we went to school in the mornings, we'd work hard. And yeah, it was tough, but it was good, you know.
He liked the usual things Brian did as a young man, going out, partying. He got on well with people, though. He was a people person. It was hard not to like him.
I met Brian in the early 80s, and he was introduced by a friend of mine in a club, and it just went from there. He just sort of hit it off. And I used to see him at different places, different venues, and I used to go out, wine bars. He was like the life and soul of the party, really.
For Brian to get ready to go out, you're talking, you know, sort of 9 o'clock at night. And I'd come home from work, from nursing night duty or finished an evening shift, and I'd come in and the house would reek of aftershave. And this was Brian in his getting ready mode. You know, probably a glass of wine, and he loved heat, he loved warmth, so that the house was just baking hot, and he's there with music going, and he's getting in his party mood. And the shirt would be pressed, and the trousers would be creased, and the shoes shined, and that was Brian.
We used to go out nearly all the time together. We'd go to the gym together, to cinema, wine bars. He'd meet me from work. Went to Jamaica a couple of times on holiday. That was great. We used to do everything together nearly.
Together with a friend of his called Sydney, they really got into boxing and wanted to promote young boxers. And, I mean, as a teenager, he always loved sport, and it was just sort of a natural thing for him to now gravitate to something like boxing, which he enjoyed. I mean, we grew up with Muhammad Ali and sitting around watching that as a child, and my father was a really enthusiastic person about that.
He done lots of things, like football, boxing. He was a boxing promoter. I done the boxing, actually, but he was a boxing promoter. He was into the football, into the music. He used to keep a lot of dances. You know, he was full of life, man.
Midnight, 2nd of May 1995. Brian and his friend Stafford are driving along St Luke's Avenue. They are stopped and searched by 2 police officers, Mark Tuffy and Paul Harrison. During the incident, the officers use batons on the 2 men. Stafford suffers a broken wrist and Brian a blow to his head. Brian is held in Kennington Police Station for 15 hours before being taken to hospital.
When I went in, I can remember seeing Brian and the state he was in. I just knew something was serious, you know. This ain't normal, this ain't, you know. I grew up with Brian. We grew up together, so I know him, you know. And I knew something was terribly wrong. You know what I mean? It was serious.
I was in, I think, Manchester the night before, so I got the details on the Sunday, if you like, and went up to the hospital and saw him in what seems to be critical conditions with tubes and all kinds of implements, in a sense, emanating from his body.
By the time I got there, he was in the intensive care unit.
I mean, during the 4 days that he was in hospital, I mean, he had an enormous number of visitors.
It was packed. It was packed with a lot of people. My main sort of like thing that bugged me was the activity, too much activity. And he was conscious.
They just said he had a headache. And he was just in a lot of pain. And he wanted to sleep.
Rochelle was there at the hospital, and her mother, and Peter, and Donald, and my sister Andrea, and half-sisters Jean and Yvonne. I mean, we were all there. I mean, in times of crisis, we are a family that rally, and everybody was there. Oh, God, stop.
No.
The clearest things he said to me is that he wanted to go home. He wanted me to take him home, you know. Yeah, but he pointed to me and he said, like, take me home, take me home. Those are the actions he'd done, you know. And I can remember the time I just said, you can't go home, Brian, you got to stay here. And I remember we hugged then, you know, because he wanted to get up and go, and I sort of like hugged him and held him down, sort of like. And I said, no, you can't, you got to stay here, you got to get better, man.
Brian is slipping in and out of consciousness. He has suffered a brainstem injury as a result of a severe blow to his head. His skull is fractured.
He was lying there, he was on a respirator, he was on, you know, monitors and tubes everywhere. To me, Brian was dead already. And the nurse in charge of him was aware that I was a nurse and whatever, and she showed me his charts and she said, look, you know, as I said to her, it's time to call my mother. My mother needs to be here because he wasn't going to wake up. It was a question of time.
At 3:20 a.m. on the 8th of May, 5 days after being struck by the police officer, Brian is declared clinically dead. His body is taken away from the family. Brian's mother arrives from Jamaica.
It's a awful feeling when you fly how many thousand miles from Jamaica to come here. When I hear the news, I don't know how it's a hard road to travel.
Very much.
It's a very hard road to travel.
Don't let her turn off the camera, man. All right, no more.
God shall shoot at them with an arrow. Suddenly shall they be wounded, so they shall make their own tongue to fall upon themselves. All that see them shall flee away. And all men shall fear and shall declare the work of God, for they shall wisely consider of his doing. The righteous shall be glad in the Lord, and shall trust in him, and all the upright in heart shall glory.
The first protest we had was days after Brian had died. It was a Sunday. And by this time my mother had arrived. And as you can imagine, people were angry. People were so angry.
And as a family, we have no particular experience of being in demonstrations more than anybody else. And we had a lot of Brian's friends that was present on the demonstrations. And I think they had as much a legitimate right as any family member did to express their anger. And on the other hand, you had the police physically trying to block the procession marching down towards Hovell, and clearly it was a very sparky situation indeed. managed finally to calm it down by some of the very close friends and family members forming a line between the police, if you like, and Brian's friends and other relatives who genuinely wanted to continue the demonstration. In hindsight, because you haven't reached a kind of conclusion that you want to, you sometimes think, well, I wonder if I wasn't so disciplined and organised and just allow people to go and tear up the situation. Yeah, so probably in hindsight, you know, I mean, that's the best that could have been achieved, and at least there would have been a day to remember, if nothing else, that some property or whatever were destroyed, and that day represents, if you like, the death of Brian. And as it happens, I mean, that didn't happen because we prevented it.
Come in, mate. You gotta find a way to let
The police begin their internal investigation at the scene of the incident. PC Tuffy claims he hit Brian on the shoulder and that the baton slid up. Brian's family begin a door-to-door search for witnesses.
There were several witnesses that actually saw the blow to Brian. There was a young man that lived in an attic, Paul Vivian, who had a perfect view of everything that was going on. As far as he's concerned, Tuffy turned and made an overarm blow. So there's nothing that can slide up. The blow is coming from overarm. That is the strongest force you can use, because the whole strength of your body is in a blow that's delivered in that way. So to me, it wasn't an accident. It wasn't even defence. That was an attack blow.
We managed to generate a number of witnesses that certainly in our mind shed considerable light and without a doubt provide in our mind evidence that the police officer was clearly responsible for the death of my brother.
The family obtain copies of the police officers' notebooks. They send them and the witness statements to two eminent barristers. The barristers confirm a legal opinion that police constables Tuffy and Harrison should both face charges of manslaughter.
Let's go! Let's go! See you, man. Come on, go out to the edge. Come, turn around. Come, rush, turn around.
I just want peace and tranquility. Let's go on to the park and end this demonstration in peace. I am a mother that is asking for peace. I thank you all.
Brian's family continue to demand legal action against the two officers. At the same time, the trial of 3 police officers charged with the manslaughter of Joy Gardner ends. The 40-year-old mother of 2 suffocated to death in July 1993 when police put her in a body belt and wrapped surgical tape around her head to gag her. The officers are found not guilty of the charges. Joy's mother continues her campaign for justice.
Call upon Mona Simpson to say some words.
It's been a long struggle. It's been a lot of pain for me and my family and for Brian. It's been heartaches, especially these last 4 weeks that I've been to the court, you know. Sometimes I break down in court. I couldn't take what I was listening to. I couldn't believe that human beings could be so cruel to another human being. You know, it makes you cringe to hear as a mother of what they did to my daughter in that sitting room. And these people, all of them that were in the room, that tape up my daughter, see the tape here? This is the tape. This is the tape. 13 feet of this. Look at these people. This is the tape they put on her. 13 feet of tape. They tape her. They bandage her. They tied her up. Bandage her. And then tape her. What kind of people are these? These people are evil. They're evil, wicked murderers. They're evil people. 13 feet of this tape. How can somebody live? Yes. How can somebody live after using this on your face? On your face. We have got to fight against them. People, please help me. I'm begging you, because it's not easy. You don't know the pain. You don't know the suffering. You don't know how I cry. My tears will catch them. My tears will catch them.
Shall we bow down our heads and let us pray? Mighty and everlasting Father, the creator of heaven and earth.
As Shiji is buried, Brian's body is still held in the morgue 2 months after his death. The family want an independent pathologist's report, but are initially denied access to the body. They are also denied access to his medical records and only get these after going to the High Court.
Here we have a situation where a man's died and that man's got family, and a family is trying its best to look after his best interests, to make sure that things are done properly. And rather than the state engaging in some kind of partnership with that family and say, okay, we understand you're grieving, this is happening to you, how can we actually assist you in this process? What we have is the state blocking the process consistently all the way down.
We had to make a decision as a family. Do we bury him now that we've actually got access back to his body, with his brain or without his brain? In the end, we had to go ahead and bury him with, as far as I'm concerned, the essential part of him missing, because they still kept his brain for further investigation.
We were friendly,
Nice and slow. Okay. Straight on.
Bye.
5th of December 1995. 4 months after Brian is buried, Wayne Douglas is arrested for burglary. Witnesses see police repeatedly hitting him with batons. Wayne later dies in Brixton Police Station.
Go, Douglas! It makes me sad to be out here again tonight when we think about it and recognize that the police have a plan for us black people. On the 16th of December last year, them killed Shiji Lapite over in Stoke Newington. On the 8th of May this year, they killed my brother, and we're still waiting for a result. And way down in December, they killed another brother, Wayne Douglas. Less than 12 months, them killed 3 black men. No police being arrested, no police being suspended, no police being charged. I tell you, they have a plan for us.
Lots of people took the view that here was Brian Douglas' family and Brian died in May, and their family has been cooperative, taking it all the way through the judicial process, and they had or were getting nothing from that process. Well, if that don't throw doubt in anybody's minds about the potential outcome of another black guy dying in police custody, well, I don't know what else.
The police right now are telling us that we should not march. That is why we have to march.
Obviously, it led to a catastrophe, really, in terms of shops being broken, cars being broken. But it clearly got the message home, if you like, because in a sense, none of our demonstrations hit the front page of the paper quite to that extent. So it almost seems that if you're going to be listened to, you have to go and break up and burn something down or something.
With any campaign where you have a death in custody, there's always lots of rumours and myths and spoilers. The last 3 or 4 deaths in police custody, within days of their death, you begin to hear negative things about them. Either they were mentally ill, they were drug dealers, they're criminals, and automatically that cuts off the sympathy. And I think the police do that. That's a purposeful strategy on their part to focus on all these so-called negative elements, whether they're proven or not. And in a way, in Shiji's case, it didn't matter whether the drugs were on him or not. As soon as they were linked to his name, he became the Nigerian drug dealer, as opposed to the Nigerian father of 2 or the Nigerian asylum seeker. And that was it. Media interest was pretty much shut down.
Olamide waits to find out how her husband died. The police complete their internal investigation. The Crown Prosecution Service, who are responsible for taking legal action, decide not to prosecute Paul Wright and Andrew McCullum, the two officers involved in Shiji's death. The family is denied access to information from the investigation and are forced to wait for the inquest to find out what happened. Wright and McCullum arrive. They are represented by lawyers and barristers paid for by the Police Federation. Until now, the officers have declined to answer any questions on the incident. The two officers give their statements. They say that they followed Shiji by car as he walked down the street, that he was acting suspiciously and placed something near a tree. They claimed they found crack cocaine where Shiji had stopped. They arrested Shiji, who resisted them.
On the officer's account, one of them grabs Shiji by the neck, while the other is struggling to bring him down to the ground, and eventually all three end up on the ground, with Shiji either face down or on his side, with one officer still around his neck in one way or another.
Shiji was presented as almost a stereotypical way in which any black man who's ever been killed in custody has been presented. It was as if they just read the file and said, that's what we're going to do. I remember one officer said he was the biggest, strongest, most violent black man he'd ever come across. And then a few minutes later, we had the Home Office pathologist saying that actually he was 5'10" and medium build, whereas the officers had described him as 6'1" and this kind of ferocious animal.
One of the officers describes kicking Shiji in the head as hard as he could to try and free his brother officer from the stranglehold. And of course, throughout, on and off, Shiji's neck itself is in a neck lock applied by one of these officers.
I remember one of the key witnesses said that he was upstairs in his room and he'd heard these terrible screams, and those were his words, as if someone was being really hurt. And he'd run downstairs in a panic, and he said he saw a black man being carried into the back of the van, and he said his head was lolling around, and it seemed to him from that point that the man was dead.
Upon the post-mortem examination of Shiji's body, some 40-odd areas of injuries were found, from head to toe. The significant areas of injury being crushed bones at the front of the neck around the voice box, and bruises to his back.
The suggestion was that he'd been punched and kicked and pulled for quite a period of time. The officers said that they had done that because he was so violent and it was in self-defense.
The most serious injury found on either officer was the bite mark on one officer around the shoulder. That was the officer who had held Shiji in a neck lock, and you would think that the bite mark was at the place where one would expect if Shiji had been struggling for life in the last few moments of the neck lock. And the other officer had a scratch at the tip of a fingertip.
I felt bitter about it. I felt really, really bitter about it because nobody was there with them. It was late in the night, and only these two policemen can really tell us what happened. But they weren't telling the truth. Everybody knew they weren't telling the truth.
The inquest jury retires to consider the evidence. Shiji's family want a verdict of unlawful killing so that Wright and McCullum will be prosecuted.
We just literally stepped outside, and I remember talking to Olamide and some of the other press there, and they called us back in. It was kind of been more than 20, 25, half an hour at the most. We were saying, oh God, it's too quick, it's too quick. They've definitely gone against us. They would have, because we felt that for an unlawful killing verdict, they'd really have to argue it out. And then they stood up and said it was a unanimous verdict of unlawful killing.
I thank Almighty God and also thank all the legal representatives, the campaigners, families and friends. Although this week has been very traumatic for me and my family, having sat in court and heard for the first time after 1 year how my husband was killed. I heard how the officers kicked him in the head twice, as hard as they could, how they beat and killed him under 30 minutes. At this juncture, I am relieved that my children are going to grow up to learn that the father was unlawfully killed by the police. I also hope at this point that CPS considers the decision not to prosecute the 2 policemen in question. Thank you.
Can you just tell us a bit of your reaction to the verdict? Can you give us your reaction to the verdict?
Ibrahim C. lived in East London with his wife and daughter. The couple were celebrating the birth of a baby girl.
If you don't know him, you will say, oh, this guy doesn't know himself because he's quiet and he's shy. But if you know him, you will know he's a simple guy, a very easygoing guy.
With me and him, we were sort of like sisters and brothers, really. He confided in me and I confided in him. He was talking of studying law. And I said to him, you know, do you think you could manage to actually study law? I mean, it takes about 5 years, I don't know, to actually go do the whole course. And he says, I need to do something in my life and I need to know that my children will be secured in the future.
One evening, Ibrahim is shouting and throwing things around at home. His wife, Amy, is worried about him because he had suffered a mental breakdown 4 years earlier. She telephones the police for help. She is frightened of Ibrahim's behaviour and jumps out of a window. The police arrive. Ibrahim comes out peacefully and is taken with a friend to Ilford police station. Amy, injured from her fall, is taken to hospital.
A senior officer and a police woman came into the ward. Basically, he sat there and he said there was a bit of a scuffle. That's how he said it. There was a bit of a scuffle which Ibrahima was involved. And I'm sorry to tell you that Ibrahima has passed away. And that's how we were told. I said, what? I'm sorry to tell you he's passed away. He died this morning. I just collapsed on the floor. I just collapsed, screaming. When Amy couldn't understand neither, and I was saying, he's dead, he's dead.
The time they told me that, I couldn't believe it because what I was expecting is, like, he will get up in the morning and come and visit me in the hospital, you know, to say sorry about what happened at midnight.
They also said to us his body is opposite Amy's ward if we want to go and see his body. And I turned around and I said, how can you put the body opposite Amy? I said, isn't that a bit careless? He said, yes, but she has to identify the body, being the wife. He was badly bruised on his forehead. You could see the bruise, you could see it stood out a lot from his skin. Inside his nostrils were black, completely black, so like a liquid form. On his stomach there was a few marks there. Basically he looks like he'd been in a fight.
Well, the reason behind this demonstration is to get justice for Ibrahim Assi, who was killed by the police last week. And it was unnecessary force they was using, and they used CS gas, which was not necessary because he went peacefully into the police station. So this is the question we're asking now. Why was he killed? And why was CS gas used on him? Because he was a peaceful man, he went peacefully. He wasn't a violent man anyway, and he had a witness. His friend was with him to the very end. So we're asking the question, why use CS gas on him? Was he a guinea pig? Was he a big, because he was the first one to be used with CS gas, just like Douglas with a baton. That's what the questions we're asking. Yes, and why so much force, so many police around? Why was there so many police around for just one man? You understand? That's what we're asking. That's the questions we're asking today. And by God, we're going to get the answers one way or the other.
I feel very bad about this thing. We all the family, you know? It's the most worst nightmare of my entire life. That's what happened to my brother. Because I think he don't deserve to die this way.
Amy was in a world of her own. Amy had lost total about 2 stone in weight. She couldn't believe it. She had a newborn baby, 6 weeks old. I think it was even hard for her to breastfeed. There was not much milk left.
I was just there. I was just there.
Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar!
It was just something that I never expected to happen to me or anyone around me. You only hear these things on the news, but you don't hear it in your own backyard, sort of thing. You know, that was my attitude. But when it hit me, it really hit hard.
We really need to get justice, because this is not the first death, it's the 5th death within less than 1 year. And it is very suspicious, because Ibrahima, as he lay dead, is having marks on his body, on his head, under his eyes, his lips is cut. Why? All these questions we should ask. Why was CS gas used on him? Why? So I'm asking everybody if we could really think about this deeply and come together. It will take time, maybe 1 year, maybe 2 years, who knows. But it's time for us to say no more, especially in the black community.
Since we last came to the Crown Prosecution Service, they've announced that they're not going to be prosecuting the 2 officers responsible for my brother's death. We've returned here today again to protest against that decision, but obviously in the long term we hope to take out a private criminal prosecution.
Were you surprised by the decision?
Yes, we were extremely surprised by the decision, given the amount of information and evidence that we've managed to accumulate. Extremely surprised that they've made the decision they have. We've got 2 QC's counsel's advice which indicate that they should have prosecuted.
Numerous cases has gone to the Crown Prosecution Service, and behind closed doors they take a political decision that it is not in the state interest to take this case forward.
At the time we were gutted. We were absolutely devastated. But a part of us was not surprised, because we couldn't actually see the British judicial system saying, yes, hands up, we are going to prosecute these police officers. Don't forget, Brian wasn't the first to die in custody. There have been others before Brian, and there have been others since. And the game plan by the judicial system is generally the same. That doesn't change much either. It's usually insufficient evidence and, you know, sorry your loved one's dead, but get on with your life. You could get on with grieving, you could get on with having a life if the system did its job. But the minute it doesn't, your life is then taken over, it's then channeled, because it has to be down this road. It's not an either-or situation. You have no choice. The system has let you down, so you have to step in and intervene.
Today represents 1 year to the day of my brother's death. He came to this police station and was incarcerated for 15 hours without medical treatment, despite suffering severe injury as a result of a police action. We're naturally very disappointed that the Crown Prosecution Service has determined that they will not be charging the officers responsible who are situated in the building behind us. We are, however, determined as a family that we will see this through to a conclusion, and the only realistic conclusion we feel is that we see the officers in a court in front of a jury facing relevant charges in relation to my brother. We feel this is the only mechanism that will ensure that future deaths of this kind won't occur. All too often we've seen that there is a police culture that leads police officers to believe anything they do they can get away with. We are determined to break the yoke of that culture.
They will not know and they can't understand the pain
and the loss
and what we have gone through.
Ruined our whole family.
My whole life is been ruined. The rest of my life that is left is ruined.
So what would you like to see happen?
I just need justice. I need these
the
policemen
to be charged with the murder of my brother.
As Brian's family contemplates their next legal move, Shiji's campaign begins a search for witnesses.
Just across the road over there, that's the restaurant from which Shiji left on the night that he died. The zebra crossing over there is the last time that one of his best friends saw him when he was alive. And literally, as he walked around this corner, he must have been stopped by the police, and 30 minutes later he was dead. Both the cafe and the taxi firm where a lot of Shiji's friends worked have been closed down. And you know, it seems that this area is trying to kind of purge itself, or the police have tried to, you know, get rid of everything which is associated with Shiji's death. We're doing a witness search. We're hoping that now that we've got the unlawful killing verdict and people actually know what happened to Shiji Lapite, they might be more willing to come forward and actually help us with the case. So 1.5 years on, we've been really surprised that so many people remember it like it was yesterday. Everyone is aware of it. Everyone's talking about it in the context of, oh, the guy that the police killed. We need an eyewitness that can clearly say that he saw those officers do those things that resulted in those injuries on Shiji, so we can actually have them prosecuted for the, you know, basically for the murder of Shiji Lapite.
As the families continue their campaigns, the Police Complaints Authority, which supervises the police's internal investigation into deaths in custody, respond to increased public concern.
We're involved with the Association of Police Surgeons in a major piece of research aimed at deaths in police stations, trying to identify causes and trying to come up with proposals which will again reduce the numbers of these deaths.
Police investigate, what do you mean? The police investigating what, the police? What, the PCA? Oh, they're a joke. They've never ever prosecuted a police officer before, so I mean, it's pointless even discussing them. You know, they're supposed to be disbanded. There ain't no use.
Brian's family arrive at the inquest to hear the police officer's account. In their evidence, the officers claim that Brian had attacked them with a knife and a CS gas canister. PC Harrison was in front of Brian and hit him on the arm with his baton. As Brian moved backwards, away from Harrison, PC Tuffy, who was restraining Stafford, turned around and struck Brian with his baton.
One thing that was interesting, the two officers both stated that Brian had been hit on the side of the neck, and the baton had slid up and caught him below the neck, but nobody actually admitted that there was a blow to the head.
Well, Tuffy said that he hit him on the shoulder and the baton slid up and hit him on the side of the head. And like the evidence clearly showed that he was hit on the top of the head, like with X amount of force, you know, which shouldn't be administered to anybody. I mean, much less on top of your head, or even your head. And he was made to look a liar, because he didn't hit no shoulder and hit head, he hit head.
As far as they're concerned, the blow stopped there. And to this day, even with their own pathologists speaking against them and saying where the blow landed, had to have landed above Brian's ear and to the back of his head, they still maintain that it slid off his shoulder and ended up somewhere here.
There were no witnesses that substantiate the police views that he had one article or another article of some type or whatever in his hand. There was no witnesses that supported that the police officer that hit him was defending the one that was in front of him, because clearly he was walking backwards. I mean, that's the real tenet, if you like, of the evidence, whether he was attacking somebody or whether he was retreating from somebody. I mean, he was walking backwards from a police officer when he sustained a severe blow.
And another way they described it was of the equivalent of his falling 11 times his own height on his head. So you can imagine the force of coming down. That was the force, or poundage, if you like, behind the force of the blow.
It's absolutely clear that the officer was blatant, malicious, and clearly the net effect of his actions created the death of my brother, and I don't know what else you could call it but murder. So how the fuck did I get all these injuries? How did I get all these? So how did I get all these injuries then? I got the same person who done Brian's autopsy, right? Checked me, right? And he said he said one thing about black people, right? When we bruise, right, we bruise, but we have lines that come in our body. Lesions. Yeah. It's like I can see where you've been hit.
The evidence piles up against the two officers. It then emerges that the inquest jury come from Eltham, an area known for racist violence. When they return a verdict of misadventure, there is uproar in the court.
The whole thing's like mind-boggling. It gets mind-boggling because everything states like unlawful killing, you know, clearly.
Misadventure is a lawful killing. These police officers were justified in taking the life of my brother. I remember asking the lawyer, our lawyer at the time, to ask the judge to give me back my brother's brain and don't let me have to come and get it.
Move! Don't touch me, brother. Move! I'm gonna go and join with them.
Donald will make a statement on behalf of the family.
This has also been a very distressing time for the officers involved in the arrest of Mr. Douglas and their families. The actions of the officers have undergone in-depth scrutiny by the investigation immediately instigated by the Metropolitan Police Service and supervised by the Independent Police Complaints Authority, by senior lawyers of the Crown Prosecution Service, and by this inquest.
I think the family got a fair chance.
No, we didn't get a fair chance. This system isn't fair. 15 months till we got to that day, to have them turn around and insult us. My brother has not died in vain, as far as I'm concerned, because we will fight every court in this land. I will not stop. I haven't stopped from the beginning and I'm not stopping now. And we'll be there. That was my blood. My mother brought him into this world, and no policeman in a uniform has the right to take his life. None.
Murderer, innit? You're a murderer. You kill off people, innit? That's right, you know that. You stand up and you're a murderer. You look at me.
The response from people has been tremendous. We had tremendous support at Brixton. The campaign continues to have considerable support because people are angry. They got no more trust and faith in the system at all. And we will do this and continue to do this until we're listened to. Here we are out to a public meeting and he's got a camera taking people. What were you? Hooligans or criminals? So what's he doing? What's he doing? Right, so what you do, you take them in advance. You take them in advance. Right? What? You take us in advance. We were out here to a public meeting, get an invitation to a public
after
meeting.
the verdict, you came straight outside our house.
And then he's out here with a camera.
After the verdict, a big van came outside our fucking house. Before. So you're taking a piss, didn't you? No, not at all. So you're taking a piss, man?
Think about it.
Think about it. What do you mean? I said I was at my house.
Yeah, sure.
And a big van came, the police van, with all of the blue bulletproof vests. And then it stopped right outside the house. What for? What for? What's that? What is that though? Intimidation? What is that?
I wouldn't.
What is that? It's the same day as the verdict. What is that?
Well,
right, it was 4 o'clock.
Right, let me try to.
Chat stupidness to us, man. Something's got to happen.
I'm not. Because we've tried to be sensitive.
What, to come to our house?
We deliberately tried to be sensitive.
What, did you deliberately come to my house?
I don't know about the van coming to
Don't
the house.
know.
But
it's your police force, isn't it? It's your police force, isn't it?
Certainly. I'm people responsible.
All right. Police! Police! If I box you down, box you up. Kick you down, kick you up. Punch you down, punch you up. Cuff you with me button and dry your blood. Hurt your pride. Tell me. Would we get along? Would we get along? Lord of mercy. Police! Police! Answer! Answer!
For me, waiting for the case to come up and the results to come up was frustrating. What kept me going and being in the media or being in the public was that he died and somebody killed him, and we need to know the answers. Because you cannot take a person's life just like that without giving us the truth. And that's what we wanted to hear, the truth.
For the past 6 months, they've been doing their inquiries, you know, and we've been campaigning. And we've had a few confirmations that, like, he was handcuffed when they actually sprayed him, and the person that sprayed him is only on desk duties. And basically, we've had no contact with them. They've never come to see Amy about anything, you know. And we're just quite angry at the way the situation is gone, and it's just like they keep delaying the process. Nothing has come out. You know, we keep saying we want an answer now, and we haven't got an answer, and I don't think it should take this long to have an answer.
There's no book written, there's not a handbook out there. There's nothing written down to guide you through this process. And it's just a quagmire of legalese that you don't understand, that you wade through. The authorities don't want to help you. They want you to go away, like yesterday.
Even though the inquest jury gave a verdict of unlawful killing on Shiji's death, no criminal charges were brought against the officers. Shiji's family go to the High Court to challenge the decision. The judges order the Crown Prosecution Service to reconsider the evidence.
What are the chances now, do you think, of these police officers being put on trial?
Well, that we have to wait and see. The focus is on the Director of Public Prosecutions. There has to be a will to ensure that police officers are brought to account when they are seen to be committing wrong.
I'm feeling good with the decision today. It's taken 3 years for the family to get this far. Obviously, we're not going to give up yet. We still want the officers to be prosecuted for the murder of Shiji Lapite. But it's a positive first step. It's a pity, though, that the family have to come all the way to the High Court in this country to even begin to get any semblance of justice for their death.
An inquiry into the Crown Prosecution Service is launched. The Director of Public Prosecutions, Dame Barbara Mills, later resigns. The police investigation into Ibrahim's death is complete. The CPS decide not to prosecute the officers involved. The family have to wait for the inquest to hear the police officer's account of the incident. Ibrahim is taken to Ilford Police Station with his friend, Pa. He is reciting the Quran. On arrival at the station, the police van doors open.
Ibrahim came out, starting to recite the Quran, reading Quran the whole time. But the way the police did it, they make a queue to a blue door in the station. Is that the time I get out, I know exactly that these people want us to get into that door.
A police officer has approached Pa, and he said he can't go with him. He should go and wait in the office area. But Pa said, let me go with him. You know, he's not well. And Ibrahim turned around and insisted that he came with him. Within that time, an officer had pounced on him.
This police officer rushed Ibrahim, grabbed him on his arm. I was split with him. Like this, they screened me with their hands. So I could see through that Ibrahim was smashed on the ground, right? The hands were onto his neck. I could hear that he was choking because I've been seeing everything. There he shouted to me and said, Pa, you see what they're doing to me? You see what they're doing to me, in my language, 3 times. That was the last I heard from him.
One was holding his leg, another leg, and one was holding his back near the lungs.
Ibrahim falls to the ground twice, and twice he is picked up. One police officer asks whether she should use CS spray and is told not to.
As he's been brought up the 3rd time, the trigger-happy policewoman decides to spray him. Not even at the length that she should have sprayed him, which there's a certain, according to their law, or their rule book, you should spray 6 feet away or something. It wasn't done. Sprayed him. According to an officer, or most of them, because it seems like everybody had the same story, that he was actually enjoying the spray. He was licking it with his lips. He was actually enjoying the taste.
Ibrahim is taken into the custody area where he is placed face down on the floor by 4 officers who keep him restrained for 15 minutes. They notice he has difficulty in breathing. An ambulance is called. On arrival, they find Ibrahim still handcuffed and face down. He is dead.
It's just like they treat him like an animal. You know, it was nothing, it wasn't worth it. You know, it's just another piece of meat to them, you know. And it's sad. It's a sad, sad, sad situation, you know. Yeah.
After 6 weeks of evidence, the jury give their verdict on what happened to Ibrahim in the police station.
We got the answer of unlawful killing, manslaughter. As that verdict came in, I sort of jumped up in the air and sort of said yes, yes, yes 3 times, putting my fist in the air. And then I sort of turned to the police officers in anger and I said, "You bastards."
Mrs. Say, could you come and just forward and say something to us?
Yeah, I'm very happy about what's happened today. Anyway, I was expecting this because since day one, the time I heard he's died, I know they are the people, they kill him. Since day one, I know the police kill him. He was only a sick person. What he needed, it was just to take him to the hospital, but not to kill him. I believe this anyway is not a surprise for me.
Have a drink, if not, just raise a glass.
Cheers. Cheers.
Cheers to you, darling.
The truth about the night that he died. You know, he knew his spirit is resting today.
Yeah, how are you?
It was like we'd won something for Ibrahim. He'd gone, but not in vain, you see. So I was happy for that verdict, definitely. But I wanted more. I wanted somebody to pay for his death. I wanted somebody to go to jail and answer for his death.
The first recorded death in custody was that of David Oluwale in Leeds. On the night of 18th of April 1969, David was seen being chased along a riverbank. His drowned body was found days later. It then emerged that 2 police officers, Inspector Geoffrey Elliker and Police Sergeant Mark Kitching, had assaulted David before he died. The Oluwale case went to trial, and other police officers testified to the brutality that Elliker and Kitching had inflicted on David over a number of years. The judge did not allow the jury to consider a verdict of manslaughter. The officers were found guilty on 9 separate charges of assault on David. This was the first and last time that officers have ever been convicted of charges relating to a death in custody. Two and a half years after Brian's death, his family go to the High Court to try and overturn the inquest verdict of misadventure. The judges refuse.
On a personal basis, I do feel betrayed by the criminal justice system. I feel betrayed of the politics that exist in the criminal justice system. During the process, you met 1 or 2 very positive, productive individuals in the police force that felt their hand was tied and they couldn't do nothing. Productive individuals within the kind of Crown prosecution area that felt their hands were tied and they couldn't do nothing. And so many of the decisions that was being made was political.
We shouldn't be here today appealing the inquest verdict. The verdict that should have been given at the time should have been on lawful killing. And here we are 2.5 years down the line seeking that. That's a travesty of justice.
What does it do to you when you keep putting faith in judicial reviews and the inquest system? How does that affect you personally?
It churns you up, it upsets me. As I said previously, Brian will be no less dead 10 years from now, 15 years from now, 20 years from now. And someone, somewhere along the line, and that individual knows who he is, has got to answer to that. You can't kill a man and walk away from it and the courts support you. And that's obviously what's been happening. 2.5 years down the line, they're saying, yes, PC, Tuffy, it's okay to kill a man in cold blood and walk away scotch-free.
On the 1st of April 1998, Christopher Alder, aged 37 and father of 2 children, is taken into Queen's Gardens police station in Hull. His arms are handcuffed behind his back. He dies face down on the charge room floor. As the deaths in custody go on, another policing issue hits the national headline. 18-year-old Stephen Lawrence had been stabbed to death by a gang of white youths in 1993. The Lawrence family's campaign for justice for Stephen leads to a public inquiry which exposes racism within the police. But the issue of deaths directly at the hands of police officers is ignored.
My daughter Joy was killed by the police and immigration about 3 or 4 months later than Stephen. I have campaigned, I have talked, I've begged, and nothing has been done about it. But I'm not giving up the fight. I'm still fighting. I'm still fighting. To universities, I've never known that I could even talk. I couldn't talk before. I was a very shy person. I didn't know
Do you think this is going to damage you?
Yes, it's a hurt to me. I was shocked when I heard this morning. I couldn't believe. I was in shock, you know. And it's not nice. It's just terrible. After yesterday was the 5th anniversary of her death. And then today, to hear this news, it's very, very sad for me and for my family. It's terrible. God make everybody with a soul and a heart, but some people haven't got anything. They are not even human beings. I don't know what they are. I have to keep fighting, my dear. Just keep fighting. God will give me the strength to fight.
Over a year has passed since the inquest jury's verdict of unlawful killing on Ibrahim C. The Crown Prosecution Service decide, once again, not to prosecute the officers involved.
So basically what they're saying is a jury, it's a waste of time having a jury in the court, because whatever they say we're going to overturn it anyway. So it's a waste of taxpayers' money to be sitting on a jury. That's the way I'm seeing it, because why should they overturn the jury's evidence of manslaughter? Why? They should answer why.
I hate police. This is in me. Every time I pray for God not to have any contact with police. Every time. This is what I pray for God, every time. Because I can't stand officers. I can't stand them at all. I can't. I hate them, really. Because what they did to my husband, I hate them.
The family campaigns unite and form their own organisation. The Police Complaints Authority hold a conference on deaths in custody, but exclude the families.
Some of these points may seem self-evident, but I believe we can often lose sight of them in discussion of such an emotive subject. A death in custody can have a profound impact on community confidence in the police. In particular, there's wide concern, particularly in the black community, about the deaths of black people in police custody.
Yes, what is the conference about?
It's about deaths in custody.
Yeah, my daughter died, right? And that's the reason why I want to go.
We have a right to be going into this
place.
We have an absolute right to be coming into this place. You're talking about deaths in custody and to be excluding a family. It's absolutely outrageous. So what we're saying, so we're here now to come into this conference. I don't want to know what you're saying about it. We're not just talking about abstract names. We're talking about people that's actually been murdered. Their families have got a right to be here. You understand me?
You just stand up.
Let them in. 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 Let them in.
You want to sort this out? The agreement was for 4 from the... She's allowed it. She's allowed it. She's allowed it. All right, she's allowed it.
What would you be saying to them? As it stands
Just
now?
tell the truth. What happened to my daughter? I would like justice for my daughter that was brutally killed.
Thank you.
We should have been the first choice in that conference today. We shouldn't have to beg and demand to be heard. We will not be forgotten. They kill our loved ones, it takes us long enough to be able to bury them, and then they want us to put them to rest and go away. And I'm here today to tell you that we will never, ever go away. 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, my brother and others out there are going to be no less dead. And we, the family that survive, are never, ever going to go away.
To date, there is no police officer that has been brought to book for a death in custody. That if an incident happens, they're secure and safe in the knowledge that A, they won't get suspended, they won't lose any pay, there is no disciplinary action, and they have a license to kill and walk. So they're safe. And until that situation changes, the deaths in custody will carry on.
11th of January 1999. Roger Sylvester, a local council worker, is restrained by 8 police officers outside his home. He sustains numerous injuries during the arrest, which leaves him in a coma on a life support machine. 7 days later, Roger dies.
We need to establish the truth as quickly as possible as to how Roger, a fit and healthy 30-year-old man, came to a horrific and premature death after being detained by the police. Thank you.
I have a card he sent me on my last birthday, September gone, which I will read out to you. The card says to Mom, this is to let you know that I love you very much. I appreciate all the things you have done for me. Let not your heart be troubled. Ye believe in God, believe also in me. St. John's chapter 14, verse 1. Have a happy birthday with lots of love and kisses. And I'm praying that you may have many, many more from your son, Roger.
I look around this room and I see so many familiar faces, and I offer the family my sympathy and my condolences. This was me sitting up there nearly 3 years ago when Brian Douglas was murdered. I'm the sister of Brian Douglas. The faces that I see are so familiar, and the words that I've heard this family express are so familiar. The way you had to wait and make a decision to turn the machine off is so familiar. You lived it, I lived it. It's not easy. I'd also like to take this opportunity, for what it's worth, to invite a member of the family on April the 12th to visit Mr. Straw. We've arranged this meeting. He's agreed to give us half an hour of his precious time. We need some answers. We deserve some answers. This is time, as you say, that we are paying for. We elected this man. When they were in opposition, they came to us, my family, and offered us words of condolences, etc., etc. Now they're in power, we want to hear what they've got to say and what they've got to do and what changes they've got to make, because this situation is happening time and time again. I can't believe I'm standing here listening to another family go through what I went through and many others in this room went through. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. White, we can make all the appeals that we want to make to the authorities, but at the end of the day, if we ourselves do not organize as a community, organize to defend ourselves as a community, to make these police know when they kill one of us, one of them is going to pay, we're going to keep on coming back to these kinds of meetings.
We have a situation at this moment in time in which a jury can bring back a verdict of unlawful killing. We've got a so-called police complaints authority, who, as far as they're concerned, they says, well, there's nothing really wrong with that. Black people have got to stand up, and progressive white people need to stand up and say there is definitely something wrong with that. I think that there is more and more need to highlight this human rights violation, because it seems to me, for many people, the life of a black person is not really worth very much.
We'll understand it all by and by. Father alone will know all about it.
Even with your left, it's got before. No, come up to step before you worry about that.
Blow your hand now.
With Roger buried, His family, as well as the families of Shiji Lapite, Orville Blackwood, Brian Douglas, Kenneth Severin, Joy Gardner, Leon Patterson, Ibrahim C., and Wayne Douglas, meet the Home Secretary and demand a public inquiry into the deaths from the government. During the meeting, the Home Secretary promises reforms of the now discredited Police Complaints Authority, but rejects the family's demand for an inquiry.
He certainly knew of us individually in our cases. What I don't think he appreciated was the similarity between all our cases and the fact that we're not prepared to tolerate it anymore. Any change that comes within 2 to 3 years' time, which was some of the time span he gave for the PCA, as far as every single one of us here is concerned, it's just not good enough. In 2 to 3 years' time, how many other victims will have died in custody? Exactly. And we will still be left with the police investigating the police. It's not good enough. We don't want change yesterday. We don't want change next week. We need change now. Because people are dying. These people belong to us. It is our responsibility to make sure it stops. Thank you.
Okay.
Dead is dead. It's permanent. It's forever. And wanting justice for that death is also forever. It's a forever wanting. I will always want it and will never rest until it's achieved. If it's meeting MPs, if it's joining groups or campaigning or fighting or making a damn nuisance of myself, that wanting of justice and eventually getting it is my goal. Because I can't grieve, I can't put Brian to rest, ever, if I know someone's walking around out there responsible for his death and they haven't been brought to justice. The only thing that does happen, that as the time gets longer, it's any kind of justice. It can be legal justice or street justice. I don't really care anymore.
4th of August 1999. Sarah Thomas, a 34-year-old architectural student, is chased by 2 plainclothes police officers who claim she is acting suspiciously. Sarah is taken to Stoke Newington police station, where she suffers a seizure and dies later in hospital. The following month, Harry Stanley, a 46-year-old painter and decorator, is recovering from an operation for cancer. He is walking home carrying a plastic bag with a wooden table leg. The police believe it is a gun. Harry is stopped and is shot twice, once in the hand and once in the side of his head. He dies instantly.
Something's kicking off in a system, a society, that says working class people, every time, we will make them fucking cower. We will keep them down. If we can't keep them down, we'll start shooting them. And that's the logic that says to me, Stoke Newington police station's got a record, as long as you're armed, on what they've done to working class people. And as you said, they don't go to Hampstead to do this, they don't go down to Westminster to do this. They do this in inner city areas where people are pissed off, but they want to keep the lid on it.
From all over the country, the families of those who have died in police custody, in prison custody, and in medical establishments come together for a remembrance procession. They march on the Prime Minister's office to demand action for the deaths.
Think about your life was snatched from the blade.
You'll start the loss of the
Mm-hmm.
It's important for people to fight for justice and don't stop, because there is no other way to get justice but to fight for it. And I am still fighting for justice for Joy, and not only for Joy, as I say always, but for all. I am fighting for justice for everyone that has been unjustly killed.
Like I've always said from the beginning, if they think they don't owe me an explanation, they owe his children explanations sometimes in future. Because even if I say, oh, I've lost interest now, I'm sure when the children gets a bit older, they want to find out the truth. Especially the little one that didn't even get to know his dad.
Ibrahim, if he was looking down on us now, he wouldn't want what happened to him to happen to anybody else. So I believe he would want a change in the law and the policing in this country. A change, in a sense, in the law that any police officer involved in a case of manslaughter or murder should go to jail.
Yeah, I love him and I'll always love him. And we're going to keep fighting this case. Something will happen about it.
One of Brian's last words to Peter, his younger brother, was "sort it." I think that's the last thing Peter heard Brian say, was "sort it." And I'd like to say, Brian, we're doing that, or we're trying to. We're trying to sort it for you. Because I can't let your death go unpunished, and someone has to pay. And that's how deep my vengeance is. And it's there. It's not behind a closed door in my heart. It's just there. It's got to be sorted, because that's what he wanted, and that's what he deserves.